You know, one of the things that's beautiful about spiritual life, and actually always surprising to me, is how much I'm still learning about things that I thought I already know. It goes on and on. And really what seems to trickle out of the things that I think I know are new ways of using that information and new implications and new relations that are based on that pieces of information. Like this idea that thou art that, the idea in Christianity that God has placed himself within you, that he has created you in his image, that you are his reflection, like the image in a mirror. And that God is this unchanging perfection. You know, you can see that written about him in the Psalms, and certainly all through the Vedanta, that is there. And to understand that that means that within me is an unchanging self. And how can you touch or see something that's unchanging? You know, how can you know something that has no qualities to it as such? Because it's perfection. It's perfectly still and tranquil. And so, as I've shared in some of my vlogs before, this idea of letting the fact that you see change be the implication that you are looking from a place of non-changing, that still place, that place of tranquility, that place of peacefulness. And I mixed that recently with this idea of everything being merely a thought. Okay, and I talk about this one a lot. And I hate to do this repetition over and over, but that's really how these things start to sink in, is through hearing them again and again and thinking them in different moods and from different angles. But this idea that everything is a thought, that your brain, your receiving organ in the mind there is in a blank, dark box. It's actually never experienced an outside world, if there is one. That from, you know, encoded information coming in through the nerves, it has created a symbol of the world that you actually experience in the mind. And you assume it's coming in from the outside, but you have no verification about that. So, okay, that's kind of a head spinner. How do you use something like that? How do you think about something like that? Well, on top of that, I put a scoop of the idea that your life is just a story. That this moment is just a story, that it's nothing real about the way that you're perceiving this moment, except that you've based it on the story that's running in your mind. And to have the implication that there's an unchanging you, kind of a tape head, as it were, or a needle on a record player, that thing that's still and stays in one place, and the mind which is spinning under the needle, you know, playing the song of your life, is there, that you can retreat to that space of tranquility and see the moment without thought. That is to be present in the moment. To be absolutely present is to not have the story projected on the moment. And really, that's when everything becomes unchanging, because if you stop the record, the needle's in the same place, the record's in the same place, and there's no change anymore, right? So in the moment, there is no change. That is the divine. That is God. That is the I am moment. So putting that scoop in the bowl now, let's put some whipped cream on top of that. And we know from many of the world's scriptures that the nature of God is love, that the nature of God is intelligence or omniscience or all-knowingness, and that the nature of God is being, this isness, this magical thing of existence. So, if you are able to find the moment of stillness within yourself, which means to sort of use the mind to picture getting underneath the mind, and any thought that comes to mind that tries to tell you about the moment, put it away. Ignore it. Say, not that. That's that whole practice of neti-neti. Not this, not this, not this. Because you can't think of something because you are the absence of thought. Thought is a limitation. Thought is a quality. It's not the infinite. You know, God is beyond all of those, is all of those, as you are all of those. That's how you are able to experience life as different individuals from a myriad of perspectives and a myriad of understandings, a myriad of colors and beauty and amazing themes and ideas. And in that moment, there's bliss. In that moment, the fact that you have in that unchanging self, that tranquil self, the very essence of love. All that love promises, all that love offers is within you, and all the mind can ever do is play it back to you in a song, Play it back to you in an experience. Play it back to you in a person or an imagined happening. But the fact is that the source is here. The source is always here, will always be here, and is always with you. And in this magical moment of now, that's unchanging, ever full, that's being reflected in the mind and played for you in the song of your life, is always accessible, is always the theme of the moment, and is always a refuge that can be accessed to the person who can figure out how to escape the mind, how to get away from the story of who you are, the ego that glues you to that story. You know, it's the power of gravity holding that needle onto the record so that it can't stop playing. It can't stop interpreting. It can't stop telling the self what the moment is, instead of letting the self be the moment that it is. So, I'm sharing that with you today. Everything's already been said. Every scripture has already been written. It's up to us to really say it as many times as we need to think on it as often as we can, and to come up with a way of understanding, and not understanding in the mindful way, understanding in the transcendent way, letting go of everything. And I'm excited to share about this stuff and to talk about this stuff because this has changed everything about the perspective of life that I've had over the last 55 years. And it's taken me the last 20 to get any slight handle on a way of what to do with it and to actually be affected by it. And if somebody had been able to tell me when I was 20, I wouldn't have cared, actually. Anyway, here we are. Time does what it does. The Lord does what he does, what she does, and all is well. Take these things, though. Think about them. And as we ended yesterday, find that beautiful you that is ever shining and playing the song of your life and telling you the stories of love that you live for and filling your mind with the hope of fulfillment that it already has, just to reflect it back to you. Take hold of those things right now, effortlessly, in this moment. Set it all down and touch that beautiful self that you are.